Right, welcome YouTube. We've got glutes today. I'm going to be joined by my lovely client Lisa. Lisa has been my client for quite a while. We started off as loving bodybuilding, but not really the focus of getting on stage. She runs a very busy life. She works in a school. She also has 2 children. She has a partner who is incredible. However, he does work away a lot, so she has to run ship at home. So she runs a very busy life. Never misses a beat, never misses a meal, but that's more so because she just loves the lifestyle. I think people often get confused with the fact that they have to be a bodybuilder because of competing, whereas first they should learn to bodybuild. And like, bodybuilding at its core is not competing. Bodybuilding is eating well, moving, understanding, looking after your health. Yes, there are parts of competing that are not very healthy, right at the end of a comp prep where foods are very low, hormones become obviously down-regulated, assisted or not, that it's not the healthiest part of the process. It is an extreme part of what the lifestyle is in a competitive environment, but that's not what it is at its core. And then learning to move well, whether that is building your body through training or doing something different, that's what bodybuilding is. So today we're going to have a session with someone who loved bodybuilding and its training and learning the basics, etc., just for what it gives to them, the feel good, the confidence, etc. Yes, it's turned into potentially wanting to get on stage into the future, but that's not how it started. And if you're someone who potentially just wants to look after themselves, improve themselves, you should engross yourself within it rather than thinking about the only reason to do it for stage, because that's not right. Learn to love it first, the stage can come after. Otherwise, you'll probably find a food relationship is something that gets affected. You'll find that you don't continue to train and everything goes out the window, and you'll really hate bodybuilding and you'll demonize it for all that it's worth. But if you learn to love it first, it'll be very different. That's why I would never ever demonize it. Even now I'm taking time away because bodybuilding is everything and it gives you a lot. Right, so the first thing that we're doing, as we spoke about in the last session, is just some activation. It's always important, especially if it's an area that you struggle with a little, to get it working. And even if it's not, doing at least something to, get your muscles stimulated, make sure you've got your focus ready for your session, so that essentially once it's done, you can get after it. Because I've done these sessions quite often, I don't feel I need a lot of warm-ups in my actual movements to know what weight I'm going to use, but I do want to make sure that my body is warm enough and ready to be able to go without the risk of getting injured. So this is a newer movement, a newer glute style activation. It came from the Bodybuilder that's actually been created that essentially puts you in this position, because it's very good, but we don't have one here. So created our own with a band and a glute ham raise. I keep my feet into the rest. I keep my knees on the little knee platform. I keep my knees bent. If I was to straighten them, it would obviously be more hamstring rather than glute. And then I focus essentially on doing a hyperextension where I keep my back flexed to allow me to keep more tension into my glute. Come down as far as possible for my hips driving back, not just gripping my chest. And then I come up by driving my hips forwards, and that's it.
Walker, take off. Where are you going? Gonna dust it. That's joking me. Where are you going?
Right, so today's video, we're going to talk about how you can manage a busy schedule and still bodybuild. Because as much as Lisa can't be in the gym every day, she still does enough and a lot of effort to be able to make a lot of progress. Lisa's not getting any younger, we'll not talk about her age, and she has a very busy schedule, but the amount of progress that she's actually made in the gym and also mentally from a confidence perspective, because obviously she trains here at Rotherham and we can see it, it's really phenomenal, and bodybuilding can do that. Like, people don't realize what pushing through a set can do, what changing your physique, giving yourself a little bit more confidence in your own ability to do a lift, but then that transitions to everything in life. So we're going to delve into different things that we've done to help her manage a busy life, and hopefully it can be something that you can put into yours, stage or not, to make it so that you can fit it into your life and not give excuses. Bring your feet up, so yeah, that's all you'll need really. Okay. Just bottom of your hamstring is touching your calves, and then you should be able to just drive up and you'll be in the perfect position with your shin. Where do you feel that? Perfect. Leave it there. I don't have as much weight on the bar. When I do my, what's it called? My activation, I feel like my bum just feels like it's gonna burst. Not that it looks like it, but my bum feels like it's gonna burst. Trying to then put loads of weight on the bar, like I literally just can't do it. I found that my glutes have grown a little bit better from doing that. I'm not gonna say that they've grown loads because they're my glutes and they don't, but they have grown a lot. So you do have to get very strong, but it needs to be with quality. And I think that sometimes my thrusts weren't with quality when I was trying to push the load. Eventually I'll get there with the quality, but I just needed to scale it back a little bit. And you know, it's still 4 plates on the bar, it's still 180 kilos, it's not light, but I had to scale back a little bit to make sure that the feel was good, as well as the movement being right, rather than just getting to work, because I wasn't getting full extension. When you do a hip thrust and you get that full extension, you've got that squeeze in your glutes, you've got that weight on the bar in a compound lift. There's not any other movement that you can get that from. So scaling back and doing it, it's really going to help you a lot. Easy. And again. Nice. Good girl. The first thing when it comes to having a busy schedule and balancing bodybuilding is your routine, obviously. So many people struggle to have a routine, and they think because they work full time or they work different shifts, or that they can't do the same thing one day to the next, that they can't have a routine. And it couldn't be any further from the truth. You still can have non-negotiables regardless of what type of life you have. And I have people that work as doctors, nurses, teachers, and it still works really well, even if it means that they have to have a routine on a night shift day, a day shift day, if they have to have different ones if they work overseas compared to when they're at home, etc. It's just about finding what works right for that person. And because Lisa obviously has her kids and she also works full time, we decided that morning sessions are probably going to be more ideal for her. And you know, some people think that a morning session isn't going to be productive when it comes to building mass. Like, you have to find what works for you. People don't have the liberty of being able to train at 1 o'clock or 1:30. In UltraFlex, rather, we call that online coaching time or online coaches time, because everybody that's in here at 1:30 on an afternoon are online coaches. Just because they train at that time doesn't mean that it's going to be best for you, because the only time or the best time that you're going to make progress is when you have a setup that works for you and one that creates less stress. Lisa still eats before the gym. It's not that she goes in fasted. Yes, it's not a huge meal compared to if she was training later on in the day. We've seen no hindrance to recovery, no hindrance when it comes to the brain, which is being able to build. Everything works really well because it helps to keep stress low. So find a routine that works for you and stick with it. Then you can't use excuses as to why you can't get shit done. I love this bit sometimes. If you're in the wrong place when you pick up, it's a bit slanty on here. So you feel a bit like you're twisting from one side to the next.
Are you imparting knowledge or wisdom?
Wisdom.
Good answer. So
I'm a wisdomous cat.
That's what we like.
Yeah.
But what is knowledge?
Yeah. Oh, fuck's sake.
Come on, I like this. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is classified as a fruit.
Yes.
But you don't put in a fucking fruit salad. That's wisdom.
That is wisdom. There's practical knowledge, anecdotal knowledge, or there's evidence.
Yeah, and we've got to work up evidence, haven't we?
Always.
Good. Beautiful.
See? They're the type of questions that we want for us YouTube.
I would never work anywhere on them.
You'd be a lot better than what you think you would. Right, we are on exercise number 2. We've got a hyperextension, and we've got it with a band. We're adding the band to be able to create a little bit of tension at the top, as that will create a little bit more stimulus into the glute at the top where usually there's not a lot of load. And I'm going to do that because I get quite heavy on my hyperextensions. Anyway, Lisa's never done them before, so we can see her as maybe a potential beginner when it comes to this movement. So until she's rinsed and repeated and got very strong with it without the band, we're just going to leave the band off. Don't add things in prematurely until you've actually progressed a lift. You need to earn the right to be able to take a progression when it comes to something a bit more advanced once you've rinsed things. I've done this movement for 10 years, got very strong with it, and I've earned the right to use the band. Lisa's got some lovely blue wrist straps, and she used code MEG at Hard Body because they are the best ones, and that is the best code. If you want the best kind of discount, use code MEG, no others. Heels into the heel pad, knees slightly bent just like an RDL. If you straighten them, more hamstring. If you bend them, more glute. Lower back stays slightly rounded, upper back stays slightly rounded. Movement comes from hips driving through to bring the chest up, and then hips driving back to bring the chest down, just like an RDL. So essentially, I'm doing an RDL over the platform. Absolutely perfect. Lovely. Lovely. Leave it there. Does that feel really light?
It did actually.
Oh, you might be all right using the 26s. If you're not someone who's new to training, doing a new lift, especially when you've learned the basics, you kind of have the basic understanding of most movements. Like Lisa's very good with an RDL, it's very similar to an RDL, just some slight modifications, especially obviously using the actual machine. So once you've got the feeling for most movements, you can kind of adapt certain feelings to other machines, dumbbells, barbells, etc., and get to work pretty much from the off. If you're not that way, it might take you a little bit of time to actually get used to the movement first. Your knees wanted to bend a little, straighten a little bit, didn't they? If you think about kicking into this with your heel and just driving your knee into there, so you almost like you're sandwiched there, and then just move from the hip, you'll be able to keep yourself a little bit more bent. So part of the routine when it comes to a busy schedule is your training. Most people that have a busy schedule, a very busy job, teaching, etc., other careers, like me, I can do a rolling split. I can train any day that I want. I can have a training day off, train on, etc., have it that way, a rolling split essentially. When you work full time, or if you have a very busy schedule where there's specific things that require your attention, like children, you have to, like, I guess you could say that I could be quite selfish in that I don't have responsibilities like that. I have a dog, but she doesn't require me to be there all the time. When it comes to having children, you have to be able to drop everything that you've done, get out the door and sort something out. So if you've got a split that is a bit more either set days or the ability to be able to fit it into your week without it being an issue, if you have to have a certain day off here, a certain day off there, it works much better. So a set split or one that's easily adapted. The one that's very common at the moment, upper lower, is great because essentially if you had a very busy life and you only had 4 days in a row to train the rest of the week, you obviously didn't have time to be able to train. You could go upper, lower, rest, rest, rest. Or you could, if you had 2 days at the start of the week, upper, lower, rest, rest, upper, lower, rest. And then that's still set days, or it's essentially just the ability to be able to manage your own time. So having a training split or a training setup that works for you in your life, whether that be set days or an easy adaptable split, is something that will help if you run a busy and tight ship. Work never stops, even in the gym. Got to make sure that clients that are competing, obviously they're checking in before every meal at the minute, since a couple of them are doing the Poland amateur this weekend. So, got to make sure that when they're checking in, I'm replying. Otherwise, you miss a meal time, you miss an opportunity for either pulling back or pushing forwards. And that can be the difference between going to bed just right, to wake up just right, or not. And maybe they are amateurs and maybe you don't need to go that deep in or whatever people think, but if they're a competitor and they want to be great and you've got them in condition, regardless of what standard or level that they're at, they need some good support because they put a lot into it and you should be giving 110% back. One thing that people miss on some lifts is the aggression. Aggression is what's going to allow you to build strength. Strength, natural, non-natural, competitor, not competitor, whether you just want to look toned or not. Strength and building muscle is what's going to allow you to have the shape that you want. Obviously then it's just varying degrees of how much you want based on your actual goal. But aggression is what's going to unlock new levels to your training. So on your concentric part of your movement, essentially the hardest part of the movement, you need to make sure that you're creating the aggression on a hyperextension, aggressive on the way up with your hips driving forwards, on an RDL, aggressive on the way through with your hips as you're driving up, on a leg press from the bottom as you drive up, aggression, on a shoulder press driving up with aggression. If you're slow, etc., you're just putting a lot of tension onto your joints. Yes, slowing your eccentrics on the way down to control it, but not on the concentric. You need to be aggressive. So we were going to go on the Smith machine and we were going to do a reverse lunge. However, everybody's on the Smith machine doing leg presses, now doing shoulder presses, and they're all doing the same movements but on 3 different Smith machines, but they've decided that they don't want to join in with each other, so fair enough. I will just move over and do a different unilateral movement. So today we're going to do a single leg press on the pin loaded stack. Most people have a pin loaded leg press at their gym. I do find them very nice for a single leg press if you don't have the ability to be able to have just a normal actual unilateral loaded leg press, which some gyms don't have. Most will have a leg press like this. I do find a normal bilateral loaded leg press very heavy for a single leg press. Some guys can get away with it for sure, especially the ones that are very strong, but I definitely can't. I think that I'd probably be able to do the machine, and then we'd put like a 5 kilo on, and then I'd feel like I'm gonna die. So we're just gonna stick to the pin loaded leg press. We are gonna do this glute focused. So the way that we're gonna create for it to be glute focused is that we are gonna pause when the knee gets to 90 degrees rather than going any deeper. And that way we'll be able to keep all lovely tension into the glutes. Lisa actually has very bad feet. Essentially, we had the same injury, just in a very different way. We both had accidents, could we say? The accident was in here, wasn't it? Yeah, so she decided to drop a plate on her foot, which is obviously not a good idea, especially from a very high, essentially it was
on the arsenal, like
yeah, so basically it's from this height, and she just dropped a 20 kilo onto her foot, which completely shattered her foot. I did very similar, but mine was in a car accident, so I understand how it feels with a little bit of instability and with not being able to get the best actual ankle mobility. So we're working on it with the calf raises and getting it better, but we struggle a lot when it comes to split squats, any kind of single leg lunge, anywhere really. So we're working on it with some very lightweight body weight style movements, and then single leg work we actually just do on a leg press. So at least she's still getting some unilateral work, but just not something that's going to actually impact her, because there's a difference between someone being in a little bit of pain and working through it, or someone that's literally on the Smith machine looking like they're about to die, or like their ankle is going to snap. That I was watching when I watched her train once, and I was like, can't do that, Lisa, because they're not going to get a lot out of it. So we're on the leg press, so you have to adapt and overcome always. But it doesn't mean that we can't do something, it's just that we've got to do it in a slightly different environment compared to the standard. And understanding training, understanding that you can adapt, you can get the same thing out of a few different lifts, but finding what suits for a person definitely comes with having experience and knowledge. One of the variables when you're running a busy life is your nutrition. Not everybody has the ability to be able to cook fresh every day. Some people don't have the time to have a massively varied meal plan, and sometimes they do. So I have even clients who are air hostesses who have to go with just simple things like actually specifying a pack of cooked chicken or a bag of rice, because they can't take. Sometimes you'll go through airport security and they're fine with you having some scales in your bag. Sometimes, depending on where you are, not so much. So you have to be very careful as to what you take, because otherwise you'll just get it taken off you. So you have to simplify meal plans based on what people can and can't have. Some people obviously don't even have the luxury of being able to, in the day, sit down, have a meal, and whilst a shake isn't optimal in terms of digestion, etc., sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. You have to make sure that if you do need to make adjustments to someone's meal plan based on what they need, busyness, day-to-day life, ability to cook, whether they actually have any cooking facilities in whatever working environment they're in, etc., you have to make it work for them, and you have to think outside the box sometimes. Otherwise, everybody would be under the impression that not everybody can do it. And, you know, food is fuel. There's a way to be able to manage things and keep things consistent to a certain degree in all environments. It's just that you have to find the right way to navigate around it. My knee sleeves are from Hard Body. Always use single ply, unless I was to do a powerlifting comp, which will happen at some point in the future, then I'd use something a little bit thicker for my 1 rep max. But because I want to have my kneecaps working and I want to not get a bounce out of the bottom, I use something that's very light, just so that I get a little bit of warmth around my joint so that it doesn't hurt my knees when I'm doing the movement. So that's essentially what we're going to do. Have a little single ply. Going to do a little squat. I don't usually do a squat, but Lisa has a squat in her session and I feel she'd benefit from doing it. I would usually do a leg press, but since we just did a single leg press, we were supposed to do a reverse lunge, which is a squat style pattern. Might as well just go for the bilateral loaded movement for this session to be a squat, especially because Lisa's going to get a lot from it as well. So as we just mentioned, Lisa's ankle mobility is not the best, so she's going to use a tiny little heel wedge. You could use a squat shoe, the one with the little heel lift. You could use some little plates if you don't have an actual wedge at your gym, or you can use a wedge if you'd like to. Essentially, your first little set that you're going to do, you're going to figure out if you've got the wedge in the right spot to make sure that you've got your toes right at the very end of the little wedge and your heels are just slightly raised. But it just means that if you've not got the best ankle mobility, it'll help you get knee flexion. Knee flexion is your knees traveling over your toes. You can't get that. Are you going to use your quads? Probably not. Are you going to be able to get a full range of motion for a normal squat? Absolutely not. If you're not getting full range of motion, are you making the movement as hard as possible to build as much mass as possible? Probably not. Perfect. Lovely. You can let the hips sit back a little bit, but try not to let it dip. Better. Done. Leave it there. Perfect. Watch me. I'll do one side and then you can do one side. Yep. But you want to keep your chest over your hips, keep a tiny bend in the knee, the working leg. If you straighten it, I find I get a lot of tension through the back of my knee and I feel like it pulls my hamstring. I'm not saying, because I'm not curling, I'm not using my hamstring, but it hurts a little bit. And if you keep it straight, you're banging the floor. If you keep a straight bend, you don't hit the floor. But you only want to bring your leg as far back as your hips don't start turning or arching. You want to keep them as neutral as possible. So the actual range for it is quite short. The largest range probably is what you can get in the stretch. That is the end of my session. Last tip that I'll leave you with if you are a busy person and wanting to make bodybuilding or just health and fitness fit into your life, you have to have a want for it. So, you know, someone on stage has to have a want, has to have the motivation, etc., or the desire, passion, whatever you want to call it. It has to be there. That's the same as when it comes to making it work into your life, that the want has to be there. And ultimately, it does have to come from you. Nobody's going to do it for you. People can set you up a training program, a food program, be your coach, be your PT, but they're not with you 24/7. Even if you have in person, they're not with you in person, every day. With online coaching, they're probably with you more even though they're not there, if that makes sense. And they will give you the motivation 100%. They should be a source of motivation, someone that's going to edge you on, give you the confidence and make you want to do it, to keep you pushing forwards even on hard days. But it ultimately comes down to you, do you want to do it? Because if not, you'll just make 50 million and one excuses. You'll start, you'll stop. And you might do that and then eventually it might happen, but it ultimately has to come down to you. Do you want to make change to your life? Do you want to look better? Do you want to live better? Do you want to be more healthy, etc.? Doesn't mean that you've got to have chisel block abs, doesn't mean that you've got to step on stage, but do you want to be the best version of yourself? And if you do, that's where it starts. That start has to come from that root so that the tree can grow. So ultimately it comes down to you. You won't be motivated every day, but action is what will create motivation long term, because if you keep doing it, it becomes a habit. If it becomes a habit, it's easier to stick to. And that ultimately is going to push you forward to being able to achieve everything that you want to. Make health and fitness part of your life, make bodybuilding part of your life, stage or no, and enjoy every moment of it. Hopefully some of these tips will help you, especially if you lead a busy life.